is Nicholas Montez, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Nicholas Montez. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here together again. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a ranking video for the MCU content for all of Phase 4. Guardians of the Galaxy special came out with along with Black Panther 2. So that means Phase 4 is officially over. So that means it's time to stop and rank all 18 projects of Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4 from the worst to the best. Let's go ahead and get started ranking all 18 projects. Now, this was a movie that when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, this sounds like a nice introduction to some new characters, and we're getting like the introduction to this new team of heroes, like the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers, but it just became such a disappointment for pretty much everything that I was going for. I mean, from the story to the actual characters themselves, they just try to do so much with this movie, and even the villain couldn't even save it for me. Now, there are some things I did like about the film. Of course, I think the film is gorgeous at times. I think it's probably the best looking film of the MCU. I think some of the action sequences were actually pretty cool, especially in the middle acts or something. And then, of course, there are certain characters that I did like. I think the best characters of the film are Gilgamesh, Thena, and Kingo. I'm just gonna go with Gilgamesh and Thena because they actually have an arc and they actually have a nice relationship together. Kingo just disappears throughout the entire film, and technically, I don't remember what happened, but because I haven't watched the movie since it came out. But yeah, so for me, Eternals comes in last place. Now, for me, this was also a film that I wish I could not have this low on this list, but unfortunately, it has to go here. And for me, this was a film that, after the massive success of Thor Ragnarok, I was like, okay, I'm down for everything that they're going to do with Thor. Obviously, I wasn't the biggest fan of what they did with him in Endgame, but this is a Thor film, so how are they going to do it? And they just did not do it very well. The humor just sucked. They try to do so much with the humor. It's like this film did not take itself seriously at all. And then also they kind of didn't really do the best with Gore the God Butcher, as he had a story that kind of worked, but it wasn't satisfying enough. The only thing I really liked about this film was the soundtrack, the cool fight scenes, and the stuff that they did with Jane Foster and her getting Mjolnir and becoming the mighty Thor, while at the same time dying from cancer and dealing with that. I thought that was a great arc throughout that movie, but I couldn't care for I could care less for that because I couldn't take this movie doesn't take itself seriously, so it comes in towards the bottom. Now, for me, when they first announced that they're making a Loki TV show, I didn't know what to think about this, because the idea of a Loki show where Loki's the main character, but he died in Infinity War, but then you're bringing back the one that disappeared with the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame, just seemed kind of like a weird story to come up with. And, there's things in this show that I did like. Of course, seeing Tom Hiddleston as this character again is, of course, fantastic. But for me, I like the way they actually dived into his character. What makes him tick, like all that stuff, and talking about like just diving into the character of Loki. But at the same time, it felt like it was trying to be a Loki TV show while at the same time trying to be a show to set up the multiverse. Like, I understand you, but it's like the story didn't feel complete. It's not like a lot of people could be like, it's kind of like Infinity War where the multiverse just happened. But did it though? Because it's like, yeah, season 2 is kind of like that Endgame level, but I don't know. It's like, and plus a lot of the characters I did like, some of them didn't really have like clear goals of where they were going, and that's the thing. I just did not like this show very much. Now, of course, another positive is, of course, the special effects are pretty good. And also, I do wish we could have gotten more action sequences, which is kind of something I love going into these movies, into these types of movies and shows. And then also, Sylvie was also a pretty cool character. I love seeing Owen Wilson as Mobius in here. And I'm excited to see King the Conqueror in Season 2, as well as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So, I am excited for Season 2, though. Now, Moon Knight was a show that I think did some unique stuff. Of course, the best thing about this show is, of course, Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, as Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, and of course Jake Lockley. He was able to master all the performances right. And of course, there are some cool action. I love the character of Layla and her turning into the Scarlet Scarab. And I love Ethan Hawke, where he's a different type of villain, where he actually is a doctor to our hero and trying to help him. The biggest problem with this show is that it doesn't have... I wish we could have gotten more Moon Knight, a lot more action, and a story that felt a lot more cohesive. And a story like this kind of feels similar to what Black Panther does, where it kind of deals with ancestral plane and stuff. I feel like it should have been a lot like that, but at the same time, he's more of just like the protector of the night, and I don't know. It just felt like a story. To me, it just felt like a story that was a bit rushed, and I wish it could have done better. Now, much like Moon Knight, the best thing about this show is Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, as Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. She was great. She nailed the performance, and I believe this is like her first performance in a show or film, and she nailed it. She just nailed it on all cylinders. And with this show, I thought that, I like the style of all the words coming up on the screen, kind of making it feel like a comic book. There are some pretty cool action, and some characters are pretty funny. The problem here is just the CGI and story. The CGI is atrocious, and I do not like the look of her powers, and I'm hoping that when we get her in the Marvels next year, her powers look a lot better, because they do not look good in this show at all. So we'll just see how that goes, but overall, it's a good show, but it's not the best. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of her being a mutant. I want her to be an Inhuman and just stick to that Inhuman route, but that's just my thoughts. Now, much like Moon Knight and Miss Marvel, the best thing about She-Hulk is, of course, Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, and she's great in the role. She works. I'm excited to see her in future projects. And of course, there's a lot of great things about this show. Of course, you do get the return of Daredevil in his Daredevil suit, not just Matt Murdock, like we got in No Way Home, but also into the Daredevil suit. Well, the ketchup and mustard one. And there were some nice scenes in here in this show. The problem here is that the story itself and the way that it handles certain plot lines and the way it just feels kind of lazy is kind of weird at times. It's like, I understand that She-Hulk's kind of like breaking the fourth wall, but it doesn't seem necessary to do that throughout the entire series. I understand what they were trying to do, especially when you get into the finale where she breaks the fourth wall officially. It's like, it makes sense. And even when you get to the first episode where she talks down to Bruce saying, I deal with this infinitely more than you, but they've gone through two different situations. But that's my thoughts. But I did like this show. There's some rewatchability to it, but it's not the best Disney Plus series. Now I know what you're thinking. Why are you putting Shang-Chi so low? Well, listen, there's things in this movie that I do really like. On the positives, I think that this movie has some of the best action sequences in the entire MCU, probably since Winter Soldier. I also love the addition of Shang-Chi, Su Saling, Awkwafina as Katie, Shang-Chi's friend. I love the Mandarin. He's a great villain. I love the Army of the Ten Rings. I love all that stuff. I loved the Death Dealer fight scenes. I love all that. And I even love the world. I even loved getting introduced to the world of Tallow and seeing, what's his name, Trevor Slattery again. The problem here is that when you get to the third act, the whole plot of the story is the dad let his son go 14 years. Well, actually, no, wait. Let me talk about the stuff I liked about it. And if I'm being honest, I think the best thing about this movie is the characters. Like the character. Okay. Let me just talk about that now. Okay. So, the reason why I don't like it is because the whole story is setting up to this third act where you think that the mom is behind all this when it's actually just a dweller in darkness. And it's kind of disappointing when you think about it, where we thought we were gonna get a third act with our father and son of the story when we were just facing off monsters now. Like, the monsters aren't the monsters aren't the enemy here. The Mandarin is. It's kind of like what She-Hulk said. The Serum isn't the villain here. Todd is. So, like, it's kind of weird in the way they did that. It was kind of cool when they were fighting it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. And also, like, some of the characters' arcs just kind of felt off. Like, Shang-Chi, what exactly was his arc in the film? What exactly were the characters' arc in the film? I would say Sue Starling was the best character of the film because her arc was actually completed. Where, from the start, her father wouldn't let her train with the boys, so she watched what the boys did and trained herself to do it better, and then she left her home when she was 16 and created a fight club in Tokyo in her 16 years. And then when her father died, she went back to her father's base and became the new leader of the Ten Rings. So she's probably the best character that has the best completed arc. She was executed well, you liked her, and I'm just excited to see her again, as we might be getting a special with her one day. But I cannot wait. And I did like this film. The end credit scene was cool, but overall, the movie itself is pretty good. While it has some disappointing parts as well. Now, pretty much every other project up to this point in time is actually good to great. And Doctor Strange 2, I think, is a really good project from the MCU. Personally, it's just an overall good Sam Raimi film, from the horror action to the campy stuff. You know, the action sequences in this film are amazing, especially with that Doctor Strange's music note fight. I thought that was awesome. I loved all of the wizardry and stuff. I love the addition with America Chavez. I love all of that. I'm not the biggest fan of what they did with Wanda. As I keep watching it, it's like, it doesn't make sense in why she wants to just go visit why she wants to go be in a universe where her children only exist and not Vision existing as well. Like, they could have created some sort of different plotline to do that. I'm not sure. They also kind of wasted the Illuminati, where Wanda just kills them off immediately, as they're some of the smartest people, but they get dumbed down by them so quick. So overall, this film is cool. It's good, but there are some things that I'm not the biggest fan of in this film. Now, this was a show that I absolutely really liked, and I'm so excited for season 2 when we get it. But personally for me, I just think that this show was just such a really nice exploration of the multiverse. After coming off of Loki, I was like, okay, the multiverse is now open. What can we do with that? So they do a show called What If, and they explore the multiverse in a very interesting way, where you explore all these different universes and how the MCU script would be flipped, where we see Captain America turn into Captain Carter, Peter Quill Star-Lord turn into T'Challa Star-Lord, which I thought was actually one of the most clever episodes of the whole season. Episode 3, what if Hope Van Dyne was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent? What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? What if zombies? What if Killmonger saved Tony Stark from the Ten Rings? What if Thor was was an only child? What if Ultron won? What if the Watcher broke his oath? Like, all these episodes I thought were great. Obviously, not every episode is going to be for everyone, but at the same time, I think it was able to do something on the MCU that's familiar, but do something that's kind of new and distinct, while at the same time and also I love the fact that it's animated, and that you can just see all these characters in animation form. Sometimes it doesn't really work, sometimes it does. I also like the way it also almost made it feel like a comic book at times, which is something I really liked. But at the same time, there are some episodes that aren't going to be for everyone. I will say this, the biggest flaw with this show is I wish that it connected more to the MCU. For the longest time, it's like, is this just an anthology series, or are we ever going to see any of these characters in live action? We've seen Captain Carter and the Watcher in live action. But what about T'Challa Star-Lord? What about Killmonger? What about all these other characters? So, this show is actually pretty good, but I'm so excited for Season 2, and hopefully it connects more to the MCU. Now for me, a lot of people can say that this movie is kind of unnecessary. I can definitely agree. But I think the best thing when it comes to this movie is just the generic... obviously, this movie is known as generic Marvel. I can understand that. But for me, I just see it as just... I think that they used the familiar format of Marvel stuff that they have done in the past, Winter Soldier and stuff, and they're able to tell a different story. It's not the same thing like Winter Soldier, but it's like Winter Soldier and it has the same style of Winter Soldier, and I like that. Of course, you know, you get introduced to Yelena and Red Guardian, which are characters I want to see more of. I don't know where we're going to see Yelena again. I don't know if she died or if they're ever going to address that. I'm kind of excited to see Taskmaster, though I'm interested how they're going to play that role in Thunderbolts. And overall, and then of course the movie has some great action. The Taskmaster reveal was not the best. The villains was definitely the worst part of the film. And yeah, it does feel like a story that we needed long ago. But overall, it was a really good film, and I actually really liked it. Now, when they announced the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, I had no idea what to expect from this. But they just crafted one of the most unique things in Phase 4, where it was a Guardians of the Galaxy Special to see more of the Guardians, while at the same time setting up things for Guardians 3, while at the same time just being an awesome Christmas special and celebrating the holidays. I love the soundtrack, I love seeing these characters again, I love seeing Cosmo and Rocket interact, I love seeing more of Nebula and Rocket's relationship since Endgame. I love seeing more of Drax and Mantis together, and the fact that Star-Lord and Mantis are siblings, I'm hoping that the relationship will progress in Guardians 3. And I also like the addition of Kevin Bacon in here. I will say this, the design of Groot and stuff, I wasn't the biggest fan of. He had some funny moments, but honestly, he didn't have the best design, especially like the baby Groot head with the bulked up thing. I just didn't like that. But overall, the special was really good. Then we got Werewolf by Night, which, of course, when they first announced this, I was like, all I know is that it's going to be about a werewolf. It's going to be directed by the guy that did the MCU Spider-Man films, who did the music for the Spider-Man films, and also it was a horror film. But then we got the first trailer, and it looked like a 1930s horror film, and when I watched it, I thought it was incredible. First off, it introduced us to 3 new characters that I really want to see more of in Jack Russell's Werewolf, Man-Thing, and Elsa Bloodstone. And then, of course, you know, it also just has a nice feel of it feeling like a 1930s, 40s horror film. And then, of course, you know, it just ends off with such great bloody horror action that I just absolutely love. So this is something that I think is truly special, while at the same time setting up something so great for the future of the MCU. Then we got Falcon Winter Soldier. This is a show that for some reason just gets a lot of hate on this channel. I mean, a lot of hate recently. And I just don't understand why. This show is really good. of course, you get the fun stuff of Bucky and Sam interacting and them working together, but at the core of it, it is a story uh, about what it means. Not only what it means, but it really explores the true stuff of being Captain America, and that it tries to it handles a lot of these themes of like when the Flag Smashers, their whole goal is thinking that life was better before the blip happened, where there is countries not merging together, and it makes sense, kinda. And but at the same time, the stuff that Sam Wilson deals with in becoming the new Captain America, like what it means for a black man to become Captain America, how would that be like? And also the character of Isaiah Bradley was fantastic. I want to see an origin story with him where he is Captain America. And I also love the stuff that Bucky deals with, though I wish we could have gotten more of it. I liked his character in this show, but we could have gone more with Bucky. Because he's such a tragic character, going to war, now just finally being in peace. But yeah, I love the stuff they did with Sam, and for becoming Falcon to Captain America, it was great. And especially the new suit. The new suit is fire. I also love John Walker's suit. Not John Walker's suit. I love the character of John Walker, and that he's just this guy that just wants to do the right thing. He doesn't care. He just gives orders. He just takes from what he's ordered to do. So I thought he was a very well illustrated character. And then of course the Sharon Carter stuff I liked, but it was kind of obvious, though I want a special where we explore what happened. And then of course, as it is a part of the Captain America franchise, the action in this show is fantastic, like always. So this show presents a lot of great stuff for the MCU that we already know and love. Now, when this show was announced, I was like, this is the first project of Phase 4. It's taking place after Avengers Endgame, and it's going to be starring two of our Avengers. One is dead, one we don't know where it's going on, and it's going to be taking place in a 1950s sitcom. What is going on here? And for some reason, they managed, like, obviously the first 3 episodes were, like, full-on sitcoms, but as it went along, you start to get really interested. Up until, like, the 3rd episode, then you start to figure out the background of it, what it really is, and that Wanda took over a town of people, and she didn't know about it. That's what I believe. But I think the best thing about this series is that it's able to do something unique and different. Because, like, most of the Marvel... Because, like, if you're going into a Marvel movie, most people would expect big, epic action. And, yeah, they kind of do have that at the end of this season. But most of the show is not... That's not what it is. It actually does something unique and kind of dealing with a story of grief, of her dealing with the loss of her loved one. And you actually create relationships that matter with the characters that don't exist. And Elizabeth Olsen's performance as Wanda is fantastic in this show. I would say that her performance is better than any other thing in the entire MCU, because this is where I honestly cared about her the most in this show. And then, of course, I love the introduction to adult Monica Rambeau, where she really changed, and this is kind of her superhero origin story, and I can't wait to see her in the Marvels. So for me, I love this show. There are a few stuff that I didn't like. First off, not the biggest fan of the Ralph Boner joke. Wish we could have gotten actually Evan Peters Quicksilver, but he's gonna come back in Agatha Coven of Chaos, but we'll see how that goes. But overall, I love WandaVision. Now, obviously, of all of the MCU films, this is probably the one that has the most difficult thing of making it because of the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. And so, after we all grieving, everybody was thinking, like, how are they going to make this movie? Because they can't... I don't think that they should recast him. I don't think they should cancel the film. And I don't really think they should continue the movie without him. So, like, what do? You just do the movie without him, but how do you find a way to respect him in a way that seems meaningful? And they actually use the real life death and tell it in the perspective of the characters, and I think that's actually a unique way to do a movie. And obviously it doesn't seem too important, but at the same time it is. Where the movie's just about grief, where all these characters, and the thing is, it's not just acting, it's actually real emotions, because these people actually cared about him. They worked with him in the first film, so they actually care about him. And so all the performances in here were just fantastic, from Letitia Wright to Angela Bassett as Ramonda to Danai Gurira as Okoye. I mean, all the performances in this film were fantastic, and the acting in it, and the crying, like, it was so emotional. I also loved the introduction to Namor and the Talokans. I'm disappointed that we're probably not going to get a Namor film because of the Universal rights. Technically, we're probably going to get the Universal and rights back to Hulk and Namor in June of 2023. So maybe they'll probably announce again that we will get a Namor film in the future. But I love that it's not just Aquaman in Atlantis, and that it's actually something different. Like, it's like Wakanda, except it's underwater, and it's Mesoamerica, Mexican people, and I love that. And like that, this is another nation that has Wakanda. That there's another nation out there that has vibranium. That Wakanda wasn't the only place that had vibranium, which was cool. And then also, some of the action sequences were also really good, especially the Boston Bridge fight, the scene with the Quake fighting all the Talokans, plus Atuma, and especially what makes that scene so great is that there's no music, so it's great. And then, of course, the addition to Riri Williams is great. I'm excited to see her in Ironheart. And then, of course, you got T'Challa, Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa, Wakanda Forever. Can't wait to see him lead the future of the MCU, and probably date Storm as well. The biggest problem here is I'm not the biggest fan of the whole Ross plotline. Just it could have been taken out of the film. And also, I think to end off with this part of the video of Black Panther is this movie doesn't need a cameo to do a great story. It really doesn't. Where you look at all these other projects and you think, oh man. You're excited for it because you want to see cameos. You don't care about the characters. You don't care about the story that they're going on. You just want to see characters. That's what people were doing with She-Hulk. They want to see Daredevil. And this movie, you're not really getting excited for Black Panther, for Doctor Doom to show up, because he wasn't going to be in the film anyways. You're just glad that you're watching the movie and exploring a great film. So, I love Black Panther and Wakanda Forever! Now, if you're thinking, why would I put Am Groot above Black Panther again? I know, and why am I putting this in the top 3? Well, let me just say this. If you're tired of Phase 4, and you just want to sit back, relax, and enjoy some fun entertainment with a cute Marvel character, this is the series for you. Where it's not really affecting the MCU, I understand that, but it really does shape the way of what Guardians of the Galaxy is. It's just an emotional, not emotional, but it's cute, funny shorts with Groot, and that's all you really get, and that's what I love about this series, and all 5 of these shorts I loved, so that's why it's in 3rd place for me. Now, Hawkeye was a show that, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, this seems cool. A lot of people said it was centered, they think it's centered for a TV show, but I don't understand why. And then I kept hearing about all these ideas that they could do in this show, and they just sounded amazing. And then I watched the show, and it's simply fantastic. I mean, it really is a straight level show. The stakes are extremely low. And that's kind of the cool thing about it, is that it's not meant to end the world. It's not meant to end the city of New York. It's just meant to tell a fun story of Hawkeye and Kate Bishop fighting the tracksuit mafia in New York City during Christmas time. And also the Christmas feel to this show was also great. And then, just the action sequences were great. The character growth of Hawkeye was great. The stuff with Kate Bishop was great. all of that stuff, and then even the way they incorporated the Yelena plot line in here was also great. All of that was just great. The Kingpin reveal, kind of disappointing. I'm excited to see him in Daredevil Born Again, by the way. And if I'm being honest, the only complaint I really have for this show is I just want to see more episodes. It probably should have been 9 episodes, to be honest. So, I love Hawkeye, and hopefully we get to see more of these characters. Now, you're probably thinking, this is probably the most obvious number 1 for me because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I don't know if I have any other Marvel posters back there, but this movie is special. Now, it's not just because it's cameos. Like I just said with Black Panther, that movie is great, but because it doesn't need cameos. This movie is great because it has cameos. But it's not cameos that are used to be like, oh my gosh, he's that character, he's back after all these years. Well, technically it is, but they do it in an earned way, where they're involved in the story. But before we get started with all that, we gotta talk about the deepness in this film, where this film really compares that this version of Peter Parker is different from the 2 iterations of Peter Parker we've gotten in the past. Where Tobey Maguire had the comic book accurate story, which is awesome and straight out of the comics. Andrew Garfield, kind of a little bit more down, a little bit more Earth-based, a little bit more human. Tom Holland, we didn't get to see his origin story. We were just introduced to him in Civil War, and then his first film comes out straight after Civil War. So we didn't get to see his origin story, and plus we kind of assumed that all that stuff happened. With great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben died, got the power, fought Bonesaw McGraw. We thought all that happened. But then you watch this movie, and you start to realize Aunt May says the line, Aunt May dies. You start to realize he hasn't been taught us that important lesson, and that Aunt May is the Uncle Ben of the MCU. Now, I'm pretty sure Uncle Ben has died, but he probably died at an age where Peter probably couldn't remember. But when you start to realize that this whole trilogy was his origin story, and that this was a completion. And then when we get the college trilogy, that's going to be another arc of the story completed. And honestly, that's a great thing to do with the character, a familiar character that we've seen so well, and I never thought you could do that where the origin story was just one film, and I love that. I love the way they did this. And then even as you're having Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield teach him that lesson of with great power comes great responsibility, that's awesome. That is great fan service. But then of course, come on. I mean, you finally get to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come back as their Spider-Man roles. It's fantastic. I mean, all of them get great moments with Tom's Peter, even with MJ and Ned, and even the little moments they had with Doctor Strange. All of that is great. Whether it's talking about their villains, cracking Toby's back, whether it's talking about that Toby has organic webs and all of them use web shooters. And then finally, the big moment I loved, them hugging, saying they love you, and then swinging on top of the Statue of Liberty together was one of the best moments of the entire film, especially with that score. Michael Giacchino, you did amazing on that score, by the way. And then also beyond that, the way they're important to the story is that the whole movie's about making second choices, having second chances, and these characters actually have second chances. Where Toby saves Green Goblin because he let him die in the first film. Andrew was able to save MJ because he couldn't save Gwen. And Tom doesn't really have a second chance. Well, he has a second chance to heal them and send them home. That's his second chance. But, yeah. But then also, the villains is coming back. Ignore the background noise. Sorry about that. But, then of course we gotta talk about the villains. Of course, it's cool. Of course, it's great to see Alfred Molina as Doc Ock again. Jamie Foxx as the cool Electro. Sandman and Lizard, kind of disappointing. Wish they could have done more. But Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin probably the best Phase 4 villain we've ever gotten, and this is the best character of the film. His performance was goated, and I have to say, I probably like this performance more than in the original Spider-Man, because he was fantastic, and he was beating the crap out of Peter Parker in this film. And then, what else happened? And then, of course, on a standpoint, it also just is able to carry a tone of seriousness and funny scenes where they're able to handle all that right, especially when you get into the Spider-Man stuff. And then, of course, on a technical level, the action scenes are amazing. The CGI is actually pretty great. I actually liked some of the CGI. And then, of course, little moments with Doctor Strange was pretty cool. And it was kind of, when you think about it, it's a unique way to do the multiverse story with Spider-Man in the MCU. Now, if you want to talk about some flaws in this movie, there's only one flaw, and it's really the first 20 minutes. Because it's kind of like Black Panther, right? They established a tone of what the movie was going to be like in the trailers, but also the first 5 minutes. This movie, I feel like that they should have established the tone of the movie in the first 20 minutes. Where they established, we're not doing any more jokes, we're not being happy, we're telling a serious Spider-Man story, and that's how it's going to be for the rest of the movie. But we're still going to have some jokes throughout the film, just not right now. I wish they could have done that, but unfortunately that's not what we got. But overall, I love Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's why it's my favorite project of Phase 4. And that's my ranking of all 18 MCU Phase 4 projects. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the About section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.